Have you ever wondered why the projects you start, you can't seem to finish? You're not alone. I've done the same many times. But in this episode, I will share with you 4 simple steps that you can use at any time to stop that and make sure you go to the finish line. Welcome to Mind Sculpture Project. My name is Issa. I'm a full-time professional just like yourself, and this is my journey where I try to learn and adapt the mindsets of high performers. And in today's episode, we're going to look at the 2 main phenomena that actually causes us to abandon our projects and 4 simple steps that you can use to make sure that you cross the finish line. So let's get into it. So why do we abandon our projects? There's a phenomenon called analysis paralysis, which is the reason why we would abandon projects that we start within a week or 2. In simple terms, what analysis paralysis means is that you have to make a choice, but you have way too many things to pick from that your mind goes numb and cannot make a decision at all. This might sound too simple, but in reality, this will come to us in many different forms and varieties. Professor Barry Schwartz actually has a really famous TED Talk where he talks about what is analysis paralysis and what actually causes this. He mentioned 2 phenomena that actually causes analysis paralysis. It is number 1, the paradox of choice, and number 2 is the opportunity cost. So first, let's look at what is paradox of choice. In his speech, he will talk about how he's taking a stroll into his local supermarket and he ended up going to the aisle to buy a salad dressing. And he would have over 70 different choices. The point he's trying to make is that this day and age, for us, if you want to make a choice with even something very simple like a salad dressing, there's going to be way too many things to pick from that our minds is actually in a place where we need to analyze all that and make a decision. And that's going to cause us to give up a lot of energy and also mind fatigue. In the same speech, he will talk about another research that was done in a larger scale, where a investment company, a multinational level investment company, they would actually choose over 2,000 different workplaces and over 1 million workers. And they offered volunteer retirement plans. So what they found out is that for every 10 retirement plans they offer, the engagement rate went down 2%. Which means if they offered 50 different plans, the engagement rate would reduce by 10%, which is mind-blowing. But in reality, this is how it's going to affect us in our lives as well. For a simple example, I will talk about my podcast. So when I first wanted to start the podcast, there was so many things for me to think and focus on. I have to focus on how am I going to speak. I need to improve my speaking ability. I need to know how to do the videography. I need to know how to edit my videos. I need to know how to write a script. I need to know how to do my research. And the list goes on and on and on. This is a simple real life example of paradox of choice. Now, moving on, talking about what is opportunity cost, which I believe causes more damage than the paradox of choice, in my opinion. Opportunity cost, simply put, is when you would make a choice. You would gauge all the courage you have and you will finally make one choice and you will go forward with the choices you make, which is the first 2 weeks that we usually go on to. But because you have so many things to pick from and you are overwhelmed and you end up picking one, even though you made a choice, you won't be happy with the choice you made because you're too worried about the things you just missed out on. So the happiness you might have gotten from the choice you made is being reduced by a large chunk just because you're worried about everything you just let go. And this could actually lead into guilt. So for example, the podcast, say I ended up picking on one item. Say I thought I would just work on my speaking skills and everything else I will try to figure out as I go. But if in the back of my head, I do not know about the opportunity cost, I go in to make the videos and say my speech is looking alright, but the video quality and something is wrong, I would instantly feel a regret This is exactly what I was talking about. I can't do this. As I mentioned, I'm working full time, so I have so many excuses to give myself like, I don't have time. I can't be doing everything at once. They have a team. They have resources. This is not for me. So now we have established the two main phenomena that will cause or that will cause a analysis paralysis. So now let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about what are the 4 steps you can actually take to avoid this. And this is just from my personal experience, which works for me. So I hope it works for you as well. So step number 1 is create a well-defined end goal. I know everybody's telling you to make one, but believe me, this 4-step method starts with the end goal, but there's a reason why we need an end goal. And as we go on, you will understand what I mean by having a well-defined end goal. For example, I will take the podcast. I wanted to make an end goal. A podcast is something that could go on forever if somebody wants to. But having a well-defined end goal is the idea that you give a sense of direction. You know where you're going. You would know if you are swaying away from your goal, you would know how to come back because you know where we're supposed to go. My goal for this podcast is to make an episode a week for 52 weeks. You guessed it right. 52 weeks is 1 year. So that's just a simple example of having a defined goal where I would have more details when I say defined in terms of what I actually need. I'm going to accomplish how long I want the episode to be, what kind of episode do I want to make. And if you're the kind of person who loves the epic details, feel free to go down, make an Excel sheet or Word document, whatever you want to make, and put all that information if that helps you. But if you're not that kind of person, you just want to have an outline, that's up to you. But your defined goal is how you feel it should be defined. Now, that's out of the way. Let's get into step number 2. Step number 2 is pick 3 resources or tools that you know you must have to begin and end the project. Meaning you have to pick 3 items you know for a fact that without them, you cannot do this project. So let me apply that to the same example. If we are talking about this podcast, the reality of this podcast is that I must have a recording device. I must have a laptop to do my editing or whatever I need to do. And I must have a streaming website. Those are my absolutes. I need to have them. Without those, I cannot do this. Everything else is just optional. Even though it might surprise you or you might be like, no, that's not true. If you want to succeed, if you want to go far, if you want to get higher views, all of that is optional. Because my goal is to get 52 episodes, 1 a week. To achieve that, I need to have these 3 resources. These are must-haves. So that way I've eliminated the opportunity cost. Because I cannot tell myself that I cannot make these episodes because there's no way I'm not going to have this recording device unless I don't have this recording device or my laptop or a streaming website, which is highly unlikely. That's step number 2. So let's go into step number 3. Step number 3 is to create mini goals. So what are mini goals? It's simply the same as looking at a loading bar where it's going from 1% to 100% and every unit is a mini goal. If you wanted to go that deep, or you could go as just 2 or 3 mini goals in your major goal. That all depends on how long your goal is and do you really need a mini goal? If it's just 1 week length goal, you probably don't need a mini goal. But if it's something up to a month or like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, you would probably need some mini goals so that it would help you boost your confidence. So how this works is that having mini goals, it would help you to always have a zoom in where you focus on your mini goal. And then at the end of the mini goal, you can take a step back, zoom out, and then have a look at how you accomplish that mini goal and feel confident and allow that confidence to flow through you so that you can take it to your next mini goal. And this way, as the time goes on, you will have a lot of confidence in yourself and what you do, and you can actually take that help and push yourself until the end of the goal. And this way, you're eliminating all other thoughts that come into your head and think about anything else other than actually doing the work. But there's a crucial bit that we must have to make sure those mini goals are hit, which is step number 4, schedule your mini goals. I know some of you don't want to have schedules, and I'm not asking you to schedule your whole day and the whole week. All I'm saying is schedule the items that you need for your goal. Have a specific time on a specific day. This way, you do not have time to think, this is a good time. Is it going to be raining? Am I sick? Is it going to be someone else's party that I need to go to? If it's going to be extra work for me to do, try your best to eliminate any or all excuses. Everything. Imagine this is the only thing that matters in the world and just focus on this. And once you allocate a time slot, which obviously you do with thinking about it and as practically as you can, this way you can make sure that you hit that every week. What you're doing is that you're taking away the thinking process of, okay, so I need to do this, and how am I going to do this? Where am I going to do this? In my case, this is simply, I will create mini goals, which are 52 weeks. So I will go with 52 mini goals. Now I have 52 mini goals, and how am I going to schedule my mini goals is that if you look at 1 week, I would have a few items to complete. For example, I would need to do my research. I would need to write down my content. I would need to record my content, and I would need to edit my content, and I would need to post my content. So I would allocate time slots within the week for each of these tasks so that I know when I walk into today, what am I supposed to do? And the moment the time hits, I'm just going to go to work. I'm not going to think about, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? I just do. I don't think. All right. So that covers the 4-step method that I actually use to make sure that I am not in middle of analysis paralysis. And it helped me, and I hope that helps you too. So just to recap what we talked about what is analysis paralysis, and we talked about the two main phenomena that actually causes, which is choice of paradox and opportunity cost. And we talked about the 4 simple steps that we can take to make sure that we hit our goals. Step number 1 is to create an end goal. Step number 2 is to pick your 3 main resources. Step number 3 is to create your mini goals. Step number 4 is to schedule your mini goals. But at the end, I would just like to mention that we could have the most elaborated plan and the steps. However, there's one thing that we cannot replace. That is putting in the work consistently. If you are someone who wants to actually take your stuff to the next level and you want to be someone a high performing whatever you do, you cannot replace hard work and consistency. So having the self-discipline to bring yourself to do what you need to do at the time you need to do without having any other thoughts is up to you. So my friend, keep that in mind. And I hope this episode helped you. And if it did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe so that I can bring you more episodes in the coming weeks. And hopefully I am going to be bringing in guests in different fields who are high performers and try to tap into their brain and try to see if there's anything we can pick. That being said, lastly, I will be posting a summary of this week's episode on my TikTok page, and I will keep doing that every week. Next time, you can actually check the TikTok and see if you like the summary. Decide if you want to listen to the full episode. Until next time, my friend, stay safe and keep sculpting your mind.